get a Zoom meeting right now with the head coach of Estevan Bruins and one of 4 members of the SJHL Return to Play Committee. It's Estevan Bruins head coach Jason Tatarnic. Jason, how are things going?
Things are going well so far. I can't complain. So thanks for having me on.
Thanks for joining us. And following Jason, of course, we'll have 2 new commitments for Direct West in Chase and Easton Haygarth of the Flin Flon Bombers, and then John Frape of the Notre Dame Hounds, one of the board of governors for the Hounds. So a jam-packed show, and we're ready to break it down, starting with the SJHL and the return to play. Can you get us up to speed, Jason? Because it's yourself, it's Scott Barney of the Humboldt Broncos, Mike Reagan of the Flin Flon Bombers, and Doug Johnson of the Nipawin Hawks in the committee to help get the SJHL players back on the ice safely, and for all the young ones, for all the 20-year-olds, and for all the fans in the SJHL, just to get them back on the ice and return here. When has the last discussion sort of been with the SK government or the Board of Governors, just to sort of set the scene?
So what I can tell you guys is we met with government last week, and we'll be submitting a proposal either by the end of today or tomorrow. There's just a few pieces that we have to add into it that we're just waiting on that we'll receive. One's pretty significant, important piece from our end is from the hospital here, just advising how they'll assist us and oversee things. So that's a pretty big component. It's amazing what has to go into this. I don't think people fully understand how much work this is. And I told Bill, if people don't understand how much work this has been, they hopefully they know, so that you can get a pat on the back, because it's been a process, and you don't always get answers from government when you want them. Mm-hmm. They're busy and understandable. So, but I think we're moving in the right direction. So it's exciting that way, and we'll just have to wait and see how they respond. And I anticipate there'll be some going back and forth on some items, which is normal.
100%. And you mentioned there's a lot of work that goes into it. So when preparing an interview with yourself or anyone on the committee, there's a lot of questions that, of course, myself and Jamie have, and just fans of hockey. So we're going to try to start it somewhere. And with the WHL getting their approval in a one bubble, is that sort of feasible for the SJHL, considering that there's 12 teams? Or is the committee and the proposal looking more closely at 2 or 3 sort of separate hubs?
Yeah, there's challenges for one hub. There's challenges for 2 hubs. There's challenges for 3 hubs. So we want to be able to submit something that makes sense for the government, something that we can manage, something that they'll have an appetite for. It's kind of basically balancing it off their heads to see what they're willing to do. Because at the end of the day, they're the ones that are going to make the call. So we've had those discussions. We kind of went back and forth on the pros and cons of a 1 center hub and a 2 center hub. So we'll see where it lands. Mm-hmm. We'll go from there.
Yeah, Jason, thanks for doing this. There's been so much speculation on social media and chat rooms and articles about the nature of these discussions with the government, whether the government is really engaging, how much they know. What can you say about how the process of working with the government to try to get hockey back has gone? Do you feel like they're listening? Do you feel like it's headed in a clear direction the whole time? Or have you guys felt like you've been a bit on the back burner the last little while?
Yeah, I think it's important that we realize that, I truly believe government wants hockey to go, but it has to be done in a safe manner. So that's the challenge in their eyes. And, when they give a go ahead, they got to make sure that the public understands that it's going to be a very safe environment for the players, and whatever environment you're in. If it's Humboldt, Estevan, Weyburn, wherever it is, you have to ensure it's going to be safe for the players, plus the people that live in those communities, because the potential for the virus to spread in the community is something you have to take into consideration as well.
Yeah, for sure. And obviously another element for you, Jason, is that the Estevan Bruins, still slated to host the national championships next year. Do you feel like there's a little bit of extra frustration with the Estevan community and the club, given that you're trying to build towards that?
Yeah, it makes it a little bit tougher for sure. We're a little bit younger this year, and we really wanted to develop those young players through a whole season. That's not the case. So if we can get those players into a 6, 8, week season, that's better than nothing. What allows them to do is get a sense of how we want to operate, get a little bit more familiar with myself and the coaching staff. And so I think that's important for those players. And, I think it's important for all players to continue to develop. But that part's a little bit frustrating. But, that's next year, and we'll worry about that next year. We still want to worry about this year and get some players on the ice. So, it's challenging, but it is what it is.
Jason, I know the committee's working on sort of every angle in order to get the players back. So I'm going to try to dig into it a bit. But if there is something that you're unable to disclose, you can say no comment. There's no hard feelings. You mentioned that we might be looking more closer to 2 bubbles or 3 bubbles or hubs, whatever you want to call it. Are there any sort of insight, or do you have different cities pegged that might be capable of being one of those 3 cities right now in the proposal?
Yeah, I think there's a few centers that can do it. I think the big piece into this is having things done and organized already. Like I said, there's several factors that come into it. You're going to make sure the hotels are on board. Can a hotel shut down completely to the public and allow teams to come in? The meal process, the arena willing to shut down the facility to accommodate these teams to make sure everything operates in a safe manner, follows the protocols. Transportation, very important is you need a medical officer involved to oversee that all the protocols are being followed. Plus, there's going to be testing that's involved, more so than people would realize. So there's quite a few balls in the air, and there's quite a bit of juggling going on, but you have to get that all in place and submit it to government so that they have a proposal in their hands that they can review and analyze it. So I think time is the most important thing for us right now, is to get this in. The centers that have things done and complete, they're ready to go. So those are probably the centers that we're going to go with as in terms of choosing them, and then hopefully it meets the criteria.
And clearly financials are going to be one of the hurdles that teams in the league will have to cross. Is there any ballpark sort of the proposal that will be presented to the government on what it will cost each team, or what it potentially might cost a league, and possible solutions to obtaining that number?
Yeah, I know this has been a topic amongst fans and across the league about the expense of a bubble, right? And yeah, it is expensive. What people have to understand is, you have to be willing to find a way to make things work. So hotels have cut. Like, I know everyone assumes that a hotel cost is going to be $100 a night, or $115 a night. Hopefully, the public realizes there's hotels and restaurants that want to make this happen and are willing to cut down their costs significantly to make it happen. So I can tell you, the hotels and the arenas and the restaurants and the transportation companies, they're doing everything they can to make this work at a reasonable cost, because they know that cost is going to be a big factor in deciding if we're going to move forward with this or not. And the other component that comes into is the players. I think the government was quite surprised when we told them how much skin in the game that the players were going to have in terms of the economics. Like, we put numbers out to our players, what's going to cost them per week to be in this hub center, and the players are willing to do it. They're willing to make that sacrifice because they want to play hockey, they want to develop, and so that's another area that people might not realize, is that it's going to be a joint effort by the team, the players, and the businesses in that community.
So, yeah, you've clearly rolled right into my next question. There's obviously been discussions in sort of how to find some leeway in the financial help. Maybe it comes from a league sponsor or potential crowdfunding, or using a portion of the government support to subsidize that per team financial amount that they'll have to put forward. And I mentioned the players might have to, pay to play in order to get them back on the ice. All these are sort of being thrown around in the committee and proposed to the teams themselves.
Yeah, it's just, Nukes maybe it's the Nord aiming me to, find a way and get things done. Our group here in Estevan will be sending out some information to all the team marketers of a potential fundraiser that teams can to use to raise some money and put towards this. So I think you just got to find ways, and I think we've exhausted some options with the players, the businesses, and I think we've come up with a solution that we can make this happen.
Last one for me, Jason. Really appreciate your candor. Just simple. Are you more confident, less confident, or an equal amount of confident that we'll have more hockey this year than you were, say, a month ago today?
I'll say 50-50.
Okay, perfect.
In order to get into returning to play, I know it's in your proposal. Can you give us any insight of what it would look like if it was approved in terms of the quarantine beforehand for the players that would have to return, or in terms of discipline maybe for players that would break protocols? Any insight on some things like that?
Yeah, I can tell you players will have to isolate at home for a period of days. On arrival, players will have to do a COVID test and then do another period of isolation. And then at that period of isolation, you would do another COVID test just to get back to the practice stage. So teams would be able to practice. Mm-hmm. And then you have a time period for practice. I'll say 5-6 days, just put a number out there. And once that's completed, you would do another COVID test. And then once that's cleared, then you would go into game competition. So there's definitely some steps that have to be taken, and we want to make sure we take the right steps so the government approves it. So there's some details to it.
100%. Can't even imagine the work that's being done between the four and possibly more that are involved in this committee to get not only the 20-year-olds, but all the SJHL players, employees, coaches, and everyone involved back on the ice. Final one again. Is there a date that right now you guys have in your head or written down that you need to know by before you have to say yes or no?
Yeah, sooner the better.
Yeah.
But that's the whole point of getting this submission in here by the end of today or tomorrow. And obviously, like I said before, we'll kind of probably go back and forth on some of the points. So, we'd really like to get going before March 7th if we can. If you just look at the dates of the SJHL, the signing deadline is March 7th, I believe. The trade deadline is February 25th. So obviously there's some days there that are pretty important dates, and we want to get going as soon as possible, but that's going to be up to government to decide if we are approved, what those dates look like.
Absolutely. Thanks for joining us, Jason. And it's already a big pat on the back for everyone involved in the committee, because we know the amount of work that's going in to try to get these players back on the ice. Thanks for joining us, and we just have our fingers crossed and hope for the best.
Yeah, hopefully next time we talk, we can talk about our team and the league and just hockey stuff.
Absolutely. There was Jason Tatarnic on SJ at noon. We'll be right back with the Tenacious Twins. It's the Haygarths who just committed to Red Deer College for Direct West here on SJ at noon.